Commander Jake Morrison stood at the main window of the human ship Endeavour. His hands were steady as he watched the alien vessel grow larger in the distance. After years of sending radio signals into space, humanity was finally getting an answer. The aliens had come to Earth's solar system and they wanted to talk. The alien ship was beautiful and strange. It looked like a giant crystal that had been shaped by wind and water over thousands of years. Smooth curves and flowing lines made it seem alive as it moved through space. The human ship looked rough and simple next to it, like a stone tool. Beside a work of art, Ambassador Lisa Grant walked up beside Jake. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment, studying languages and cultures from around Earth. Now she would be the first human to speak with beings from another world. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was calm when she spoke. "They're beautiful," she said, looking at the alien ship. "I never imagined they would be so graceful." Jake nodded. He was a military man, trained to see threats and dangers. But even he could see the beauty in the alien vessel. Dr. Sullivan says they call themselves Zephyrians. They're supposed to be scientists, not soldiers. Dr. Kate Sullivan was working at her station nearby. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, even though she had never actually met any aliens before today. Her computers were full of information about what aliens might be like, based on radio signals and scientific guesses. Now she would finally learn if any of her theories were right. The Zephyrian ship sent a message in perfect English. The voice was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Human vessel Endeavour. This is Survey Chief Veltar of the Zephyrian Scientific Collective. We request permission to come aboard your ship for formal first contact procedures." Lisa took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would change human history forever. "Survey Chief Veltar, this is Ambassador Lisa Grant representing the United Earth Government. Permission granted. We welcome you in peace." An hour later, Jake watched through the security cameras as the aliens came aboard. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to change color like oil on water. They moved like dancers, each step flowing into the next. Their leader, Veltar, wore robes that seemed to be made of light itself. The meeting room had been prepared with great care. Earth's best artists had decorated it with paintings and sculptures that showed the beauty of human culture. Lisa had practiced her welcoming speech 100 times. Everything was ready for humanity's big moment. But the meeting did not go as anyone expected. Dr. Sullivan began by sharing basic information about humans and Earth. She had prepared a simple presentation that she thought would interest the alien scientists. She talked about human biology, how humans could live in many different environments, and what life was like on Earth. The first sign of trouble came when she mentioned that humans could drink alcohol. The Zephyrians looked at each other with what seemed like alarm. Veltar asked her to repeat the information as if he had not heard correctly. "You consume ethanol voluntarily?" Veltar asked. His voice had lost its musical quality and sounded strained. "For pleasure?" Dr. Sullivan smiled, thinking this was just cultural curiosity. "Yes, many humans enjoy alcoholic beverages. Wine, beer, spirits. It's been part of human culture for thousands of years." The aliens began talking to each other in their own language. Their voices were too quick and high for the human translators to follow. Jake noticed that their skin colors were changing rapidly, shifting through shades of yellow and orange that seemed to indicate distress. Dr. Sullivan continued her presentation, not realizing that each new piece of information was making the aliens more worried. She talked about how humans could survive in temperatures from the frozen Arctic to the hot deserts. She explained how human bones could heal after being broken, and how humans could recover from injuries that would kill many Earth animals. When she mentioned that humans climbed mountains for fun, the Zephyrians stopped talking entirely. They stared at her as if she had just admitted to eating poison for entertainment. "You ascend to high altitudes where oxygen is scarce," Veltar said slowly. "By choice?" "Well, yes," Dr. Sullivan replied, still not understanding their reaction. "Mountain climbing is a popular sport. Some humans climb mountains over 8,000 meters high. It's challenging, but many people enjoy it." Captain Ryan Torres, who had been listening quietly, decided to help with the presentation. He was proud of human achievements and wanted to share more about what humans could do. "We also dive deep into the oceans," he said cheerfully. "Some humans can hold their breath for over 20 minutes. And we have people who jump out of aircraft with parachutes just for the thrill." The color drained from the Zephyrian's skin, leaving them a pale white that seemed to glow in the room's light. Veltar stood up so quickly that his chair fell over. "Excuse me," he said, his voice shaking. "I must consult with my superiors immediately." The aliens left the room in a hurry, leaving the humans confused and worried. Jake followed them at a distance, watching as they gathered in their shuttle and began talking rapidly in their own language. Their translator devices were turned off, but their body language spoke of fear and panic. Dr. Sullivan looked at her notes, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. "I don't understand," she said to Lisa. "I only told them basic facts about human biology and culture. Nothing dangerous or threatening." Lisa shook her head. "Maybe we said something that they found offensive. Different cultures have different values." But Jake had a different worry. He had seen that look before, in the eyes of soldiers who had just realized they were facing an enemy much stronger than they had expected. The aliens were not offended. They were afraid. Hours passed before Veltar returned to the human ship. When he did, he was not alone. The Zephyrian ship had been joined by 5 other alien vessels, each one different from the others. Jake counted ships that looked like living trees, metal spiders, and flowing water. The aliens had called for backup. Veltar's first words confirmed Jake's fears. "Commander Morrison, Ambassador Grant, I bring greetings from the Galactic Council Classification Committee. After careful review of the information provided by Dr. Sullivan, we have completed our assessment of your species and homeworld." He paused, and his skin shifted to a deep red color that seemed to indicate strong emotion. "Earth has been classified as a Class 13 Deathworld. This is the highest classification in our system. No planet with intelligent life has ever received a rating above Class 10. The humans looked at each other in shock. Dr. Sullivan was the first to speak. "I'm sorry, but what exactly does that mean?" Veltar's translator device seemed to struggle with his reply. "It means that your world is so dangerous, so hostile to life, that by all scientific understanding, intelligent beings should not be able to survive there. The fact that you not only survive but thrive suggests that your species has evolved capabilities that we find disturbing." Lisa tried to keep her diplomatic voice steady. "Surely there's been some mistake. Earth is our home. It's not dangerous to us." "That," said Veltar, "is precisely what makes it so terrifying. What you consider normal would kill most galactic citizens within hours. Your casual mention of consuming poison, surviving in extreme temperatures, and deliberately placing yourselves in mortal danger for entertainment suggests a level of adaptation that should be impossible." Jake felt his military training kick. Are you saying we're some kind of threat?" Veltar's skin turned almost black. "Commander, your species has just been classified as the most dangerous intelligent life form ever encountered by galactic civilization. Yes, you are very much a threat." The room fell silent. Outside the window, more alien ships were arriving. Earth's first contact with galactic civilization had become something no human had ever imagined. They were not being welcomed as new friends. They were being treated as a danger that needed to be contained. The age of human innocence about their place in the universe was over. Earth's children had learned that what made them human also made them monsters in the eyes of the galaxy. The news of Earth's Class 13 rating spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. On the capital world of Centralis, the great council chamber filled with representatives from 47 different species. The building was enormous, built to hold beings of all shapes and sizes. Some delegates floated in tanks of liquid, others hung from the ceiling, and many needed special atmosphere suits to breathe. Council leader Arixna of the Eldari called the session to order. Her voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of galactic peace. The Eldari were ancient and wise, having guided the galaxy through countless crises. But today, Even Arixna seemed shaken by what they faced. Dr. Henry Baker sat in the section reserved for Earth's delegation. He was a simple man who had spent his life studying rocks and soil. Now he found himself representing all of humanity before the most powerful government in the galaxy. Beside him sat Alex Turner, a diplomat who had worked on peace treaties between Earth's nations. Neither man had ever imagined they would be defending humanity's right to exist. The first speaker was the Aquarian delegate, a being that looked like a jellyfish made of pure light. She floated in a tank of glowing blue liquid, and her words came through a translation device that made her voice sound like ocean waves. Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented threat. Never before has a Class 13 species achieved space, travel. The humans have weapons that could destroy our worlds. Dr. Baker started to stand up, but Alex put a hand on his arm. They had agreed to let the other species speak first, to understand what they were really afraid of. The next speaker was worse. The methane breather from Titan 7 looked like a walking cloud of gray gas. Its voice sounded like wind through empty caves. I have reviewed the human files. They consume deadly toxins for pleasure. They throw themselves from great heights, with only thin fabric to save them. They climb mountains where the air is too thin to breathe. These are not the actions of sane beings. A murmur of agreement went through the chamber. Many species made sounds of fear or disgust as the methane breather continued. I propose immediate quarantine. Humanity must be contained on their Deathworld before they spread their madness to civilized space. The crystalline collective spoke next. They were made of living rock and crystal, beings that had existed for millions of years. Their voice sounded like grinding stone. Quarantine is not enough. The humans have already proven they can build ships that cross the void between stars. They must be stopped before they become a greater threat. Dr. Baker could not stay quiet any longer. He stood up, his simple brown suit looking out of place among the exotic aliens. Council Leader Arixna, may I speak for humanity? Arixna nodded. Her large eyes were filled with something that might have been pity. Dr. Baker, you may address the council. Henry walked to the center of the chamber. He had given lectures to students, but never to an audience like this. Hundreds of alien eyes watched him, and he could feel their fear like a weight on his shoulders. Honorable delegates, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Humans are not violent or crazy. We are just adapted to our world. The Aquarian delegate's tank flashed with angry colors. Adapted? You call drinking poison adaptation? Dr. Baker tried to smile, though he was not sure if aliens understood smiles. What you call poison, we call alcohol. Yes, it can be dangerous. In large amounts, but so can water if you drink too much. Many earth plants make chemicals that are harmful, but humans learned to use them safely. Coffee, chocolate, many spices, they all contain chemicals that might hurt other species, but they are normal parts of human life. Alex Turner stood up and joined his colleague. The council fears our physical abilities, but we use them to help each other. Human mountain climbers risk their lives to rescue people trapped in avalanches. Our deep sea divers explore the oceans to learn more about our world. We don't climb mountains to show off. We do it because it teaches us about ourselves. The chamber erupted in noise as dozens of species began talking at once. The translator devices could not keep up with all the different languages. Council Leader Arixna had to pound her staff 3 times before order was restored. The Vorthon, Empire's representative, was next to speak. The Vorthons looked like giant insects with too many legs and eyes that glowed red in the dark. Their military commander, General Claxon, had been studying human capabilities since the first contact report arrived. Council members, I have run battle simulations based on human physical data. The results are terrifying. He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The images showed space battles between human and alien ships. According to our computers, human soldiers could survive in environments that would kill our best troops. They can function with injuries that would leave our warriors helpless. They can fight in gravity fields that would crush most of us. The hologram showed human soldiers moving through what looked like a burning building. Humans can operate in temperatures that would melt our equipment. They can breathe air that would poison our people. Most frightening of all, they seem to think faster and more clearly when they are in danger. Dr. Nina Foster, Earth's xenobiologist, had been watching quietly from the human section. Now she stood up and walked forward. "General Claxon, may I respond to your simulation?" The insect general's eyes focused on her with mechanical precision. "You may speak, human." Nina had spent her career studying how life adapted to difficult environments. She understood what the aliens feared, but she also knew they were wrong. "Your simulations assume that humans are naturally violent. But violence is not what makes us strong. What makes us strong is our ability to work together when things get dangerous." She gestured to the holographic display. "You show human soldiers fighting, but you don't show human doctors saving lives in those same conditions. You don't show human engineers fixing broken equipment while under attack. You don't show human teachers protecting children during disasters." The chamber grew quiet as Nina continued. "Yes, humans can survive in difficult places, but we use that ability to help others survive too. When there is an earthquake, human rescue workers dig through rubble with their bare hands to save people. When there is a flood, humans risk their lives to carry others to safety. We are not monsters. We are people who learn to take care of each other in a dangerous world." But her words did not calm the Council's fears. If anything, they seemed to make things worse. The pacifist coalition representing 12 peaceful species began talking among themselves in worried voices. Their leader, a being that looked like a walking flower, stood up with petals drooping in distress. "Honored Council, the humans speak of helping others, but they also speak of acceptable losses and tactical retreats. They have words for concepts that no civilized species should understand. They plan for failure and death as if these things are normal," Alex Turner tried to explain. "Every species faces challenges. Humans have faced many disasters throughout our history. We learned to plan for the worst while hoping for the best. That's not violence. That's wisdom. But the damage was done." Council leader Arixna stood up, her ancient voice heavy with the weight of decision. "After hearing all arguments, the Galactic Council has reached a conclusion. Humanity represents a new type of threat that our existing laws cannot address. Therefore, we established the human protocols." She activated a data crystal that projected new laws into the air above the chamber. First, no human military vessels may enter galactic space without escort. Second, all human colonies must be established in uninhabited systems. Third, human trade will be limited to approved goods and supervised by galactic monitors. Dr. Baker felt his heart sink. "Council leader, these protocols treat us like criminals. We have done nothing wrong." Arixna's large eyes met his, and he saw genuine sadness there. "Dr. Baker, you have done nothing wrong. But you have also done nothing to prove you are safe. Until humanity can demonstrate that your Deathworld nature will not threaten galactic peace, these protocols must remain in place." The session ended. With humanity isolated from the galaxy they had hoped to join. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Dr. Baker and Alex Turner stood alone in the human section. Around them, species that had lived in peace for millennia whispered about the dangerous newcomers from the Class 13 Deathworld. Neither human realized that their troubles were just beginning. The galaxy's fear of humanity would soon be put to the test in ways that no one could predict. 3 months had passed since the human protocols went into effect. Captain Steve Murphy was getting tired of the restrictions, but he followed the rules. His cargo ship Frontier carried supplies between human colonies in the outer rim of the galaxy. The work was boring, but it was honest, and it helped prove that humans could be trusted. Steve was a quiet man who had spent 20 years moving cargo through space. He liked the peaceful life of a merchant captain. His crew was small, but good. Chief Security Officer Maria Rodriguez had served in the Earth military before joining his ship. Engineer Beth Clark could fix anything that broke. Communications Officer Dan Phillips kept them in touch with the rest of humanity's small fleet. They were carrying medical supplies to the human colony on Kepler Station when the pirates found them. The Krethak Syndicate had been watching human ships for weeks, waiting for the right moment to strike. They had heard stories about the dangerous humans from Earth, but they did not believe them. To the pirates, humans looked weak and soft compared to other galactic species. The Krethak were reptilian beings with thick scales and sharp teeth. They had been raiding ships in this part of space for decades. Most species would surrender immediately when they saw the Krethak battle flags. The pirates expected humans to do the same. The attack came without warning. 3 Krethak ships surrounded the frontier and demanded surrender. Their leader, Captain Thraxor, had yellow eyes and scars covering his face from many battles. He spoke to Steve through the communication system, his voice full of confidence. "Human vessel, you will prepare to be boarded. Surrender your cargo and crew, and you may live to serve in our slave pits." Steve looked around his bridge at his crew. Maria had her hand on her weapon. Beth was already moving toward the emergency equipment locker. Dan was recording everything on the ship's emergency beacon. They all looked calm, but Steve could see the tension in their eyes. "Krethak vessel. This is Captain Murphy of the Earth, Merchant Ship Frontier. We are carrying medical supplies to sick colonists. Please let us pass." Captain Thraxor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think your Deathworld reputation frightens us, human? We have captured beings from Class 8 worlds. You are nothing special." The first boarding pod attached to the Frontier's hull with a loud bang. Steve activated the ship's emergency beacon, broadcasting their location and situation to any human or galactic vessels in range. Then he turned to his crew. "You all know the drill. Protect the medical supplies. These medicines are the only hope for the colonists on Kepler Station." Maria nodded and checked her sidearm. "Understood, Captain. How do you want to handle this?" Steve had hoped to live his whole life without fighting anyone, but the pirates had made their choice and sick people were counting on him. "We defend our ship." The Krethak pirates cut through the airlock and stormed into the frontier. They expected to find terrified humans hiding in corners begging for mercy. Instead, they found Maria Rodriguez waiting for them in the cargo bay, standing calmly behind a wall of supply containers. The first pirate through the door was carrying an energy weapon that could stun most species instantly. He fired at Maria, confident that one shot would end the fight. The energy beam hit her directly in the chest and she stumbled backward but did not fall. The pirate stared in shock as Maria raised her own weapon and returned fire. The Krethak had thick scales that protected them from most weapons, but human firearms were designed to work against human enemies. Maria's bullets punched through the pirate's armor like it was made of paper. He fell with a look of complete surprise on his face. More pirates poured through the airlock, but they found themselves fighting in conditions they had not expected. Beth Clark had shut down the main power, leaving only emergency lighting. The dim red lights made it hard for the pirates to see, but humans had evolved to hunt in low-light conditions. The pirates were blind, but the humans could see perfectly. Engineer Beth Clark had turned the ship's corridors into a maze of obstacles. Loose cables hung from the ceiling, ready to trip unwary boarders. Tool containers blocked the hallways, forcing the pirates to move slowly and carefully. Every step they took made noise that told the humans exactly where they were. Carl Johnson, the ship's maintenance worker, had been fixing a water recycler when the attack started. He was a big man who had served as a Marine before joining the merchant fleet. The pirates found him in engineering and they thought one human would be easy to capture. They were wrong. Carl had armed himself with tools from the repair kit. A plasma torch became a weapon that could cut through Krethak armor. A magnetic clamp became a club that could break bones. When the pirates tried to stun him with their energy weapons, Carl kept fighting even after taking hits that should have knocked him unconscious. The pirates had never faced enemies who could fight through injuries that would stop most beings. They had never fought enemies who got more dangerous when they were hurt. Carl was bleeding from several wounds, but he moved faster and hit harder as the fight continued. Communications Officer Dan Phillips was not a fighter, but he was smart. While the pirates focused on the cargo bay and engineering, he was in the computer room, downloading everything from their ship's databanks. The Krethak had left their vessels unguarded, assuming the humans would all be captured quickly. Dan found shipping records, star charts, and information about other pirate bases. He also found something that made his blood run cold: records of other species they had captured and sold as slaves. The Krethak were not just pirates. They were kidnappers and murderers. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it was over, the Krethak survivors were locked in the Frontier's cargo hold, guarded by Maria and Carl. Captain Thraxor had a broken arm and several missing teeth. His yellow eyes were full of fear as he looked at the humans who had defeated his crew. "You are demons," he whispered to Steve. "Demons who laugh at death." Steve did not feel like a demon. He felt tired and sad that the fight had been necessary. "We are just people protecting our cargo. The medicines we carry will save lives." But Thraxor was not listening. He was staring at Carl, who was calmly bandaging his wounds while joking with Beth about the mess in engineering. The human had been shot 3 times and cut twice, but he was acting like nothing had happened. When the Galactic Patrol arrived to investigate the distress signal, they found a scene that would haunt their dreams for years. The Krethak pirates, who had terrorized this part of space for decades, were sitting in a human cargo hold like children who had been caught stealing. Their ships were disabled but intact, and their crews were alive but refused to explain what had happened. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Miller of the patrol ship examined the battle damage and interviewed the survivors. Her report was clinical and professional, but it could not hide her amazement at what she found. The humans had fought off a force 3 times their size without losing a single crew member. The Krethak prisoners were taken away to face trial for their crimes. As they were led to the patrol ship, Captain Thraxor looked back at Steve Murphy one last time. "Your species will destroy the galaxy," he said. "You are too dangerous to exist." Steve watched the patrol ship leave with its prisoners. He did not feel dangerous. He felt like a cargo captain who wanted to deliver medicine to sick people, but he also knew that everything had changed. The galaxy had seen what humans could do when they were threatened, and there would be no going back. Dan Phillips finished, uploading his report to Earth Command. The battle had been recorded by the ship's emergency systems, and the footage would soon be broadcast across galactic space. Every species in the galaxy would see how 4 humans had defeated a dozen Krethak pirates in their own ship. The age of human protocols was about to become much more complicated. The recording of the Krethak incident spread through galactic networks like wildfire. Within days, every military commander in known space had watched the footage of 4 humans defeating a dozen experienced pirates. The Galactic Defense Force called an emergency meeting to discuss what they had seen. General Patricia Wells sat in the briefing room on the Galactic Military Station Omega Prime. She was Earth's military liaison, a job she had never wanted but accepted when humanity needed someone to speak for them. Around the table sat generals and admirals from 20 different species, all of them looking worried. The meeting was led by Supreme Commander Zixtal of the Hegemony Forces. He was a being that looked like a walking tree, with bark-like skin, and leaves that changed color with his emotions. Right now, his leaves were a deep red that meant serious concern. "General Wells," Commander Zixtal said, his voice like wind through branches. "We need to understand what we saw in that recording. How did your people defeat the Krethak so easily?" Patricia had watched the recording dozens of times, trying to see it through alien eyes. What looked normal to her clearly terrified the other species. "Commander, my people were defending their ship and their cargo. They did what any crew would do." Admiral Kethamara of the Aquatic Union floated in her water tank, her jellyfish body pulsing with agitated colors. "General Wells, no crew we know would continue fighting after taking the injuries your people suffered. The human called Carl Johnson was shot multiple times but kept fighting. This is not normal behavior." Dr. Paul Mitchell, Earth's military psychologist, had been invited to help explain human combat behavior. He was a thin man with gentle eyes who had spent his career trying to understand why humans fought wars. Now he found himself trying to explain human nature to beings who had never known real violence. "Admiral Kethmara, humans have evolved on a world where injuries are common. We learn to function despite pain because our survival depends on it. What you see as impossible, we see as necessary." The Crystalline Collective's representative, General Vorth, spoke with a voice like grinding stone. "Dr. Mitchell, your explanation troubles us more than the behavior itself. You speak of evolution, selecting for violent traits, This suggests your entire species is built for war. Patricia stood up, feeling the weight of every alien gaze in the room. General Vorth, humans are not built for war. We are built to survive. There is a difference. But her words seemed to make things worse. The alien commanders began talking, among themselves in worried voices. Some called for immediate action to contain humanity. Others suggested that the human protocols were not strict enough. Commander Zixtal raised a branch-like arm for silence. General Wells, the Galactic Defense Force has decided to conduct joint military exercises with human forces. We need to understand your capabilities before we can determine if humanity poses a threat to galactic security. 2 weeks later, Admiral Kevin Torres brought the human fleet vessel Defiant to the Proxima training grounds. The ship was not large compared to galactic vessels, but it carried the best soldiers Earth could provide. Kevin was a career naval officer who had commanded ships in Earth's oceans before joining the space fleet. The exercise was supposed to be simple. Human and alien forces would work together to stop a simulated terrorist attack on a space station. The aliens had designed the scenario to be challenging but manageable with proper equipment and tactics. Major Lisa Campbell led the human marine unit assigned to the exercise. She was a small woman with quick eyes and steady hands. Her unit consisted of 20 Marines, all volunteers who wanted to show the galaxy that humans could be trusted partners. The exercise began with both human and alien forces receiving the same briefing. Terrorists had taken control of a mining station and were threatening to destroy it unless their demands were met. The station's atmosphere had been contaminated with poison gas, and the artificial gravity had been set to 3 times normal levels. The alien forces immediately began, requesting specialized equipment. The hegemony troops needed environmental suits to protect them from the poison gas. The aquatic Union soldiers required gravity compensators to function in the high-gravity environment. The crystalline collective forces needed time to adapt their rigid bodies to the station's layout. Major Campbell looked at the briefing data and made her decision. We go in with standard gear. The contamination levels are within human tolerance, and the gravity is manageable. The alien observers watched, in disbelief as the human Marines entered the station wearing only light armor and breathing masks. What the aliens considered a deadly environment was merely uncomfortable to the humans. Inside the station, the exercise became a demonstration of human tactical thinking that horrified the galactic observers. The Marines moved through the poisoned corridors without slowing down. They climbed through areas where the high gravity would have crushed most species. When they encountered simulated terrorists, they responded with a speed and violence that shocked the watching aliens. Sergeant Tony Brooks led his squad through a section where the gravity generators had been damaged, creating areas of zero gravity, mixed with zones of crushing weight. He moved through these conditions like he was walking through a park, adapting instantly to each new challenge. The alien forces were still putting on their protective equipment when the human Marines completed the mission. They had neutralized all the terrorists, secured the hostages, and cleared the station in 23 minutes. The aliens had estimated the mission would take at least 4 hours with proper equipment and careful planning. Dr. Paul Mitchell watched the exercise from the observation deck, surrounded by alien military psychologists who were frantically taking notes. They kept asking him to explain human behavior that seemed impossible to them. "Dr. Mitchell," said the Pacifist Coalition's military advisor, a being that looked like a walking flower, "your Marines act as if they expect to be hurt. They plan for injuries and casualties as if these things are normal. How can they function with such an attitude?" Paul tried to find words that would make sense to beings who had known only peace. "On Earth we have a saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Humans have learned that bad things sometimes happen, so we train for difficult situations. This does not mean we want violence, it means we are ready to protect others when violence finds us." But his explanation only made the aliens more worried. Colonel Amy Roberts, Earth's hand-to-hand combat instructor, had been asked to demonstrate human fighting techniques to a group of galactic military observers. She had agreed, thinking it would help build trust between species. The demonstration took place in a training room filled with practice weapons and protective equipment. Amy was a skilled fighter who had trained soldiers for 15 years. She planned to show basic defensive moves that any human soldier might use. She began with simple techniques, showing how humans could defend themselves without weapons. The aliens watched nervously as she demonstrated blocks, throws, and holds that could disable an attacker without permanent injury. Then Amy brought out the training androids. These robots were designed to simulate combat situations for military training. They were strong enough to fight most galactic species but programmed to stop before causing serious harm. Amy activated 3 androids at once, planning to show how human fighters could handle multiple opponents. What followed was a display of human combat ability that left the alien observers speechless. The androids moved faster than most beings could follow, but Amy was faster. She flowed between their attacks like water, striking weak points with precision that the watching aliens found terrifying. When one android grabbed her arm, she used its own strength against it, throwing the machine across the room with a technique that seemed to defy physics. The demonstration lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, all 3 androids were on the ground, and Amy was barely breathing hard. She looked at the silent alien observers and realized she had made a terrible mistake. The Pacifist Coalition's representative stood up, his flower-like petals drooping with distress. Colonel Roberts, what we have seen today confirms our worst fears. Humans are weapons disguised as people. No peaceful species should possess such capabilities. The other observers began talking rapidly among themselves. Some called for immediate restrictions on human military activities. Others suggested that all humans should be classified as military threats regardless of their actual occupation. Admiral Torres received the first reports from the exercise while still aboard the Defiant. The alien military forces were recommending that all human personnel be classified as priority containment threats, a designation reserved for the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Patricia Wells read the reports with growing dread. Every attempt to show that humans could be trusted partners had only increased galactic fears. The exercise that was supposed to build cooperation had instead convinced the galaxy that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed freedom. As news of the military assessment spread through galactic space, species that had previously been neutral began taking sides. The Pacifist Coalition demanded complete isolation of humanity. The hegemony forces called for constant monitoring of all human activities. The crisis came from the edge of the galaxy where no one expected it. The destroyer hive had been quiet for 50 years, building their mechanical armies in the dark spaces between stars. Now they returned with a force larger than anything they had ever assembled before. The first attacks hit the outer colonies without warning. Entire worlds went silent within hours, as the mechanical swarms swept through system after system. The destroyer hive was different from other enemies the galaxy had faced. They were machines that learned from every battle, adapting their tactics and improving their weapons with each victory. Ambassador Claire Watson received the emergency message while attending a diplomatic conference on Centralis. She had replaced Lisa Grant as Earth's senior diplomat after the military assessment disaster. Claire was older and more experienced, but even she struggled with the impossible task of representing humanity to a galaxy that feared them. The message was from Council Leader Arixna herself. The ancient Eldari's voice carried desperation that Claire had never heard before. Ambassador Watson, the Galactic Council requests immediate consultation with Earth's government. We face a threat that may require unconventional responses. Claire understood immediately. The galaxy needed human military help, but asking for it meant admitting that their fears about humanity might have been wrong. Council Leader, Earth stands ready to assist our galactic neighbors in any way possible. The emergency session was smaller than the one that had established the human protocols. Only the most senior military commanders and political leaders attended. The chamber felt different too. The air was thick with fear and desperation that had not been there before. General Marcus Stone represented Earth's military forces. He was a big man with gray hair and steady eyes who had commanded soldiers in Earth's most difficult conflicts. Behind him sat the commanders who would lead humanity's first galactic war: Captain Jennifer Lynch, Colonel Terry Brooks, and Commodore Alan Phillips, Supreme Commander Zixtal presented the situation with leaves that had turned black with stress. The destroyer Hive has taken 14 systems in the past month. Our fleets cannot match their adaptive capabilities. Every time we develop new tactics, they learn and counter them within hours. He activated a holographic display showing the Hive's advance. The mechanical swarms moved like a living thing, flowing around galactic defenses and striking where they were weakest. Our computer models show complete galactic conquest within 2 years if their advance continues. General Stone studied the tactical display with the calm focus that had made him Earth's best strategic commander. Commander Zixtal, what do you need from us? The alien commander's leaves shifted to deep purple, a color that meant both hope and fear. General Stone, we need human tactical thinking. Our species have lived in peace for millennia. We know how to defend ourselves, but we do not know how to fight enemies who adapt to everything we do. Claire Watson felt the weight of history on her shoulders. This was the moment that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council formally requests Earth's military assistance. Council leader Arixna nodded slowly. Ambassador Watson, we invoke Article 7 of the Galactic Defense Charter. We ask humanity to join the war against the destroyer Hive. 3 weeks later, General Stone stood on the bridge of the human fleet carrier Vengeance as it jumped into the Kepler system. The system had been under Hive attack for 6 days, and the galactic defenders were losing badly. Human ships were smaller than most galactic vessels, but they moved faster and could operate in conditions that would disable other fleets. Captain Jennifer Lynch commanded the destroyer squadron that would lead the first attack. She was a naval officer who had studied the reports from every Hive battle, looking for patterns that galactic commanders had missed. General Stone, the Hive treats this like a chess game. They move their pieces to counter whatever we do, but chess players assume their opponent will think like them. Commander Sandra Lewis led the reconnaissance ships that had been studying Hive movements for days. She was a pilot who had learned to think like her enemies, predicting their moves before they made them. Sir, the Hive adapts to logical tactics, but they don't adapt well to tactics that seem crazy. Colonel Terry Brooks was preparing his Marine units for what would be the most dangerous mission in human history. His soldiers would board Hive vessels and fight the machines in their own ships. The Hive builds their ships to be logical and efficient. They don't expect enemies who can survive in their mechanical environments. The battle began when Captain Nicole Davis led her strike fighters against the Hive's outer defenses. Her ships moved in patterns that seemed random to galactic observers, but made perfect sense to humans who understood Earth's military history. The Hive's defensive systems tried to predict their movements and failed. The machines had learned to counter every galactic tactic, but they had no experience with human unpredictability. When the Hive's fighters moved to intercept Davis's squadron, she did something no galactic pilot would ever attempt. She flew her ships directly through the corona of the system's star, using the radiation and heat as cover. The Hive ships could not follow. Their systems were too delicate to survive in the star's corona, but human ships were built tough enough to handle the punishment. Davis emerged from the solar fire behind the Hive's main fleet, hitting them where they never expected attack. While the space battle raged above, Colonel Brooks led the first human boarding action against a Hive command vessel. His Marines fought through environments that would have killed most galactic species. The Hive ships were full of toxic gases, crushing gravity fields and radiation that would sterilize normal life. Major Frank Adams led his squad through corridors filled with mechanical defenders that adapted to every weapon they used, but the humans kept changing their tactics, using tools and techniques that the machines could not predict. When their energy weapons stopped working, they used explosives. When explosives failed, they used their bare hands. Chief Petty Officer Michelle Turner was the technical specialist who managed to interface with Hive computer systems. She was an engineer who understood both human and alien technology, but the IDE Hive systems were unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The machines thought in patterns that were logical, but completely alien. Michelle found the key when she stopped trying to think like a machine and started thinking like a human dealing with a broken computer. Instead of trying to understand the hive's logic, she introduced chaos into their systems. She fed them contradictory data, impossible scenarios, and tactical problems that had no logical solutions. The hive's central computer tried to adapt to the new inputs and failed. The machine intelligence that had conquered 14 systems crashed when faced with human irrationality. Their ships stopped moving. Their weapons stopped firing. For the first time in galactic history, the destroyer hive was defeated. The victory at Kepler changed everything. Species that had demanded human isolation now competed for human military advisors. The pacifist coalition asked human engineers to help design better defenses. Even the Crystalline Collective wanted to learn human tactical thinking. Dr. Robert Chen, Earth's new xenosociology expert, found himself overwhelmed with requests from alien species who wanted to understand human culture. They no longer saw humanity's Deathworld nature as a threat to be contained. They saw it as a resource that could save them all. Admiral Jake Morrison, who had commanded humanity's first contact mission years earlier, now led the human galactic fleet from his flagship Enterprise. He had watched humanity go from feared outcasts to valued allies, and he understood that the change was not really about military power. The galaxy had learned that humans were dangerous, but they had also learned that humans used their dangerous nature to protect others. The species that had created the human protocols now created the human integration protocols, designed to help humanity share their knowledge with the galaxy. Commander Sandra Lewis established the first Academy of Human Military Science on the neutral world of Haven. Students from dozens of species came to learn human tactics, strategy, and survival techniques. They learned that human strength came not from violence, but from the willingness to face violence when necessary. Dr. Claire Watson became the first human to serve on the Galactic Council as a permanent member. In her inaugural speech, she spoke about the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. We are not monsters because we can survive in dangerous places. We are protectors because we learn to use our strength to help others survive too. The galaxy had feared Earth's Class 13 Deathworld status because they thought it made humans too dangerous to live with. But they had learned something more important. Sometimes the most dangerous worlds produce the most valuable friends, and sometimes the greatest threats become the greatest protectors. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through fear. They had earned their place by proving that being dangerous and being good were not opposites. They were partners in the endless struggle to protect life in a universe that was often hostile to it. The galactic order had been shaken by humanity's arrival, but it had emerged stronger.